Hey everybody, welcome to the April 10th edition of the Upstream Ag Insights video edition. Excited to talk a little bit today about a couple different things in ag technology. Primarily going to focus on two different areas today, and really the first one is focusing in on a new initiative that I'm starting at Upstream, more focused on zeroing in on highlighting private tech companies, ag tech companies. If you look at other areas of industry, whether it's in finance, whether it's in technology, there tends to be more information around what's going on with some of these really innovative tech companies that are coming in and having an impact on the industry. And when I look out at the ag technology space, it's tough to find information on some of these organizations unless they're raising capital, unless they've made an announcement. And I want to do a better job of bringing to life some of the innovative companies that are impacting our industry, that are bringing new technology forward, and that are helping farmers produce better, helping agribusinesses in a meaningful way. And so I'm going to start really doing what I do a little bit in the public side of things, where I look at the annual reports and kind of highlight what's going on from a go-to-market, a strategy, a technology perspective, and really bring that to some of the private companies in the industry. And so highlighting their go-to-market, highlighting the geography, highlighting their traction, highlighting some of their revenue numbers if they're willing to share, even looking at business model and IP and their technology itself. And so really want to start to do that on a bi-weekly or a tri-weekly or every third week sort of basis is the goal. But we'll see what companies are interested in it. I was lucky enough to have Azotic Technologies agree to be the first organization to allow me to kind of talk with them, learn a little bit more about their business, and highlight some of the cool things they're doing and what they're bringing to the industry. And so before I get into them, just wanted to highlight that. And hopefully if you're a company, you can reach out, let me know if you're interested in being highlighted, talking a little bit more about the organization. I do a little bit of research myself and into the market, into the company as well. But if you're interested, would love to hear from you. And two, if you read the new initiative this week, the first one comes out here today. If you're interested in different areas that to be highlighted or other segments of a company or other things that you think are valuable, let me know. I'm happy to really move the format ahead and push things forward in a way that is going to be valuable to anybody reading and consuming the content. And so first, I'll quickly go through Azotic. I won't dive into the entirety of their business, but essentially Azotic Technology started in the UK, and they have a microbial-based nitrogen fixating product that's agnostic to crop. And so they have, I'm probably going to butcher this, but Gluconaectobacter diatrophicus is the active microbe in that product, and they market that as Invita in North America. And essentially, it can help fix nitrogen for crops like corn, for wheat, for canola, those sorts of things, so non-legume crops. And they've seen results in rice and other crops as well too. So really cool technology, and something that when we look at not just fertilizer prices today, but when we hear a lot about environmental side of things, using less synthetics, being able to fix at least a portion or a significant chunk of nitrogen is a holy grail in ag technology or in agriculture in general. There's been groups trying to do it for a number of years now, and there's a few products and companies on the market doing it today. And so they're pretty fascinating. They're a big chunk of their business is in Canada and the US today. They're on millions of acres, or almost 1 million acres in 2021, and will be on millions in 2022, primarily 70-ish% corn. But one of the things that I really wanted to just zero in on for a quick second was an interesting takeaway in having the conversation with their team. The Invita product was initially positioned as something that would go in furrow when you were planting or seeding your corn or your wheat crop, for example. And so that's perfectly fine. That's a very good way to get a product into the ground to make sure that you have nitrogen fixing throughout the year. But sometimes you have a miss, or you have a farmer that wants to get everything in as quickly as possible, or they miss the opportunity to apply it. They didn't know about it. Or maybe it's just managing their upfront risk in totality. And so what they actually had happen was in their about second year of selling product, I think 2019 in the US, where they had hundreds of thousands of product built and forecasted, but there was floods in parts of the Midwest, I believe, and so they only sold about something like maybe half of their inventory. And because it's a living organism, it only has a shelf life of about a year. And so what they did is, once the crop got into the ground, they started trialing foliar applications of the product. And from what I understand, when they were doing research in lab and when they were doing research previously, they hadn't shown that there was going to be positive results, but they said, hey, you know what, let's try it in the field, let's see what happens, and let's actually give it a go, because at this point they didn't have anything to really lose in that 2019 season. And so they started doing side-by-sides with hundreds of different growers to see what the results were like. And lo and behold, they actually seen just as good a results with the foliar application, which starts to bring in a ton of optionality for the farmer, which starts to bring in the opportunity to manage and influence different characteristics or aspects of that crop. So instead of targeting yield in wheat, for example, maybe there's a way to really manage protein, for example, in wheat with Azotic foliar applied. So brings a lot of different options there. And interestingly enough, today about 90% of their product goes on foliarly. And so you have this really bad situation essentially in 2019 where it looked like weren't really going to be able to sell nearly what they had in inventory of their product. Looked like it was going to be a down year. Lots of challenges, of course. And what they actually learned is there is other ways to apply this product. And now they have actually one of the keys to their uptake and success is because it can be applied foliarly. That's a differentiator compared to some of the other competitive products on the market. So pretty cool learning there, just that, you know, just because the science says X or the science says Y, which we tend to talk about a lot in agriculture, especially I know myself, I do it as somebody that was focused on the science of crop production for the longest period of time. You don't always challenge the old science, and sometimes it's nice to try things in field and come in with the mindset that, hey, there is something we can learn, there is something that we can try. Even if you don't have a bad situation that pushes it, it's nice to do that in different situations. So quick highlight there of Azotic, but in the write-up I go into some of their my guesses at some of their revenue, some of their pricing, some of their acreage growth. They've been compounding at something like 400% annually, which is pretty significant, even starting from a small number. So pretty cool company, pretty cool technology, and I think there's a lot to learn about what's going on in that space from reading that. So if you're interested, give that a read. And like I said, if you're interested in seeing other companies or you have a company that you'd love to talk a little bit about, would love to explore the options with you. And so with that, we'll go into the last portion of the video edition today. I'm going to try to keep these shorter for everybody. Really highlighting horizontal biological businesses. And I don't know if this is the technical term. This is how I think about some of these businesses. And what this stemmed from is actually 3Bar Biologicals had an agreement announced with Rizobacter out of Brazil today for some soybean inoculant trials down in Brazil. And 3Bar is essentially really cool technology that enables a biological-based company to manage their the livelihood of their biologicals in distribution, increase the longevity of the product in the supply chain, make it more effective because you don't have this genetic drift, you don't have any difference in contamination, you don't have some of the die-off occurring when you have a product that's been in solution for a long period of time. And so I've been interested in 3Bar for a while, and when I look at some of the challenges in the biological business, and of course within the biologicals and biostimulant base, you actually have non-living organisms as well too that I think have a ton of potential. Amino acids, enzymes, humates, those sorts of things I think are something we're going to see more and more of, and they don't have as many challenges when it comes to performance and making their way through the supply chain, making the product effective over a longer period of time, so it doesn't only have a 1 year, a 6 month kind of shelf life, something along those lines, right? But when I look at some of the challenges within biologicals, we have the management of those through the supply chain, and we also have the consistency of performance, and we have the absolute efficacy compared to synthetics. And I start to look at where are the companies that are not necessarily going into these specific sub-verticals of agriculture. They're not trying to identify a specific microbe or active ingredient and go in and position the product on corn and sell that product on corn, create demand, support that product. They're not trying to be a discovery company, and they're not trying to target farmers. They're trying to create tools or platforms and systems that horizontally go across the entirety of the biological realm. And so all of a sudden you have a product and solution and technology that can plug into all these different biological-based companies and support them in how they go to market, in the profitability of their product, in the positioning of their product. And so I've been finding these horizontal-based businesses pretty fascinating in the biological space as of late. And 3Bar Biologicals is one of those in helping with the microbial delivery, because they actually allow the microbe to essentially, we'll call it, be asleep until you need to use that microbe. And then just like when you'd see in a convenience store where you have water with a flavoring of powder in the cap and you push that capsule down to mix it up, it's essentially what 3Bar has in terms of technology that allows for that, so that you can optimize the microbial load going onto that crop, which should enhance performance, which should help manage any of the genetic drift and all these sorts of things we see when live microbes are living in jugs or in bags in the supply chain. And we also have the challenges of the consistency and effectiveness of a biological-based product. And this is where I'm really interested in Jord Biosciences, where they have actually been able to identify ways to go into Pseudomonas products and all these different microbes and really help to make them more effective, more consistent, and perform in a variety of different areas across a number of different crops by really being able to identify some of these synergistic components to support those living microbes with. So I find them pretty compelling because, again, they can plug into so many different biological-based companies just like 3Bar can. And then even have the dynamic where I used to tend to get into this thinking of, it's either biologicals or it's synthetics. But the reality is there's an opportunity to use them, for them to coexist, for them to be formulated together in a lot of ways and identify, the greatness of the and in the term of Jim Collins. And I look at a company like Vive Crop Protection, where they've actually, they have their technology where you can actually formulate a synthetic active ingredient with a microbe and make sure that those microbes are not necessarily dying off, make that formulation capability an option for crop protection companies, so that now we can have a synthetic product that might have really high absolute efficacy but might not have the same sort of longevity in terms of stimulating and protecting that plant. And so now all of a sudden you can start to, again, get a more effective long-term outcome from that product that has a biological in it. And so been looking a lot at these horizontal biological businesses that I think are pretty interesting in terms of what they can do to support some of the biological adoption in the industry. And so I'll dive a little bit into that in Upstream this week. And so with that, that's all I wanted to cover today from a video perspective. But again, if there's any interest in, you have a company that you want to be highlighted in the AgTech breakdown section of Upstream moving forward, or if you have things you want to see me cover, would love to hear about it and would love to explore that, because I think it'll be a fun endeavor just to really better understand some of these private companies that are in the industry that are really impacting and have a lot of potential to influence better outcomes for farmers and for agribusinesses across the value chain. So let me know, shoot me an email at upstreamaginsights@gmail.com or leave a comment on the video. Anything along those lines works for me, and would love to hear from you all. With that, hope everybody enjoyed learning a little bit more about Invita or Azotic technologies. Invita is the product, and would love to hear your thoughts on some of the horizontal biological businesses that you see that are out there that, again, kind of can go across as a platform and support and plug into a number of different biological based businesses. With that, hope you all have a great week and look forward to talking to you again.